We have Professor Adrianus Meliala, a criminologist, and also a professor at University of Indonesia or Universitas Indonesia. Selamat pagi, Pak Adri.
Good morning.
How are you? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Pak Adri, our first question is, what are your thoughts around the possible chemical castration and death penalty for child rapist Heri Wirawan?
Actually, it has been the law since few years ago in terms of the chemical castrations, and also in terms of the death penalty. It has been a law since 20 or 30 years ago. So actually, it's possible to be implemented in this case. So since this is just a beginning, well, I mean, I'm really happy that the attorney, I mean, the prosecutor submit the verdict to the Heri Wirawan. However, it's still a long time for the final decision by the judges, because the judges may have other considerations prior deciding to the final verdict for him.
In your opinion, is this justified, this sort of sentence? It's always so hard when you're weighing sentences, because especially with the severity of this particular crime. But in your opinion, as a criminologist, is this at least coming close to something appropriate for a sentence of someone who has committed atrocities such as this?
Indeed, because as judges, they have to consider, you know, the public feeling, the public public feeling against the accused. So the sexual violence has been a very popular issue nowadays, and I got the feeling that the prosecutor, especially, absorb the feelings of people by indicating the highest penalty for the accused. So I'm happy to that. As at least this can be seen as a serious gesture by the judiciary, despite the final result of the verdict, but still, it's very convincing and satisfying for the women's activists and also for the children activists that very consider with the safety and welfare of our children.
Yes. So how effective do you think is death penalty and/or chemical castration in curbing the number of child rape cases in Indonesia?
Well, talking about effectiveness is other situation, because in terms of effectiveness, we have to consider how sustained that kind of punishment is conducted in any cases. It is possible that for example for another bench, then judges in that bench may think the other way or different way. So in terms of the efficiency, we need to have some more considerations. However, at least this can be seen as a serious gesture, as an indication that we are very attentive with that kind of offense. And also in terms of the chemical castration, this is actually rather ironic situation, because the presidential decision on the implementation of the chemical castration has been issued, say 3 or 4 years ago. However, none of them and none have been conducted so far, because our health workers denied or reject to do that, simply because they see that as unethical. According to the profession as a health worker, right. It is actually seen as unethical. So this is already rather funny, because the president's decision has been denied by
right.
our health worker.
Well, yeah, I guess that would be in contrast to what they were trained for or what they believe in. But let's.
It is. Yeah.
Do we have any sort of data, even not from Indonesia, but perhaps from other countries as well, where things like death penalty or chemical castration are conducted that have shown that there is a significant reduction of these sort of offenses after people realize that this could be the penalty for those that have perpetrated these crimes?
Well, I don't have a specific data, but
right.
according to the UN report, the UNODC, that is actually special organization created by the UN dealing with that kind of issue, then the tendency is actually the world see this as much more serious and implying becoming more lenient in terms of this. Indonesia is actually one of them by signing the children's ratification and convention. So actually the tendency is that we see this as serious and we have to take care of this. However, in terms of efficiency, again, there is another problem because for example, in terms of the death penalty, so far there are 15 people listed as a death row people, which have not been sentenced while waiting for 20 years in a death row.
That's right.
That actually creates another problem because having been waiting for so long, then we feel sympathy for them. Yeah, we don't see them as as a heinous killer so far because well again they have been suffering in terms of waiting for so long.
Right. Padre, there's clearly, in this case, in this child rape case, there's clearly imbalanced power relations in child rape case such as this. And aside from Heri's case, the police 4 days ago has also found another child rape case where another Muslim cleric in Bandung raped 3 of his students. And the perpetrator convinced his students that sexual intercourse with him was important, as he claimed it would help him transfer internal energy to his students, or in Indonesia called tenaga dalam. This is clearly a very sick belief and modus operandi that he has used to manipulate his students. So what kind of MO or modus operandi that Indonesian parents should be aware of to protect their children from child rapists hiding behind phony piousness such as this?
One thing I don't really agree with the use of word rape, because rape indicates a force, while in that case, in many cases, actually it's not really rape, but it is an abuse of power. So there is a misuse of power relations from the one having a more superior power, having more authoritative power, with the other having a lower status, lower authoritative positions. So there's kind of abusive, and this may happen without conscience, without the consent of the victim. So it's not really rape, basically. So in that sense, if we talk about how to prevent that from happening, then the control is actually the only word that can be implemented. Control from external, control from parents, control from superior is actually the most effective one, rather than talking about the law, because the law, as usual, walks after the complaining, after the investigation, and it will be too late because the victim has been suffered. So control from the parents and also from the authority, from the superior of the school, then must be seriously undertaken.
Okay.
What sort of control do you mean?
Talking about Harry, then I got impression that he has a full authority without supervision from the head of pesantren. Right. Yeah? So as a senior ustad, then he has his own students, and he may spend.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, you're still connected with us, Prof. Adri. Please do continue.
Yeah, he may spend hours with his children without supervision, and in that case, then many things can happen, including sexual abuse from him to his children.
Right. Professor, I have a question here that says, other than punishing the perpetrator, what can the government or the country do for its victims? But I think I want to elaborate on it a little more. Instead of waiting for them to become victims, Marissa touched on a great point there. How do we control? well, what can the government do? Can there be any laws or regulations, and I don't even know if can be answered, to prevent people like Heri to even be in that position? Can the regulations or can the filtering process for people to be in this position be a little bit more stricter perhaps, so that we don't have to doubt whether or not we're sending our children to an institution that may possibly house some sort of sexual predator?
Talking about how what actually the government can do, actually there are some laws relating children that has been taken places. We have a children's protection law. We have criminal justice, special criminal justice for children, and also we have one other law related to children. So actually we have a quite strong regime regarding the child protections, and also in terms of the teacher side, yeah, we also have a strong education law indicating that actually the profession of as a teacher is not actually a profession for anybody. There are regulations, there are certifications that required for people to perform as a teacher. So talking about the government, actually we have enough legislations. Right. And as usual, we have now problem with how to implement that from in the field level, right, in terms of the regulations.
Right. Perhaps also having the sexual offenders, the way they're treated in North America, is that wherever you're registered to live or work, it's actually on record that you have had a sexual offense and what that sexual offense is, so that information is actually available for the public, so that for our safety as well.
Is it true that they also have to, if they sort of like relocate in some neighborhood, they have to tell their neighbors,
you have to register
and say that this is me, this is my past. And
they don't actually have to go to the neighbors, but that information is available for all the neighbors. But it would be best in your own best interest if you want to make your own case, is to explain for the people around you, because those are going to be the people you live with.
Right. So now let's talk about the victims, Pa Adri. What sort of support do the victims need to have right now after experiencing something that is so traumatic and so confusing? They were just children.
Well, talking about the protections or the service that could be provided for victims, well, we can address to KPAI, the Special Commission for Children, and also for the LPSK, the specific body created for witness and victim protections. However, talking about those two institutions, actually, the capacity of them are not that many, because they have limited budget and also authority. So now we are talking about the protections services given by society in general, for example, the family, environment, communities, because actually I believe that they are much more in better way in terms of providing the good protection for children, rather than depending upon the services provided by those institutions.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of support do they need, do you think? I mean, it's like you mentioned something that is very important there. Communities, families, basically the people around the victims. So how should they be, and how should they act, and what kind of support should they give to these children who are victims of this child rapist?
Well, one and the utmost treatment that they have is to get away from the culprit. Being away of the culprit is actually the most treatment that is needed. And the second, if you talk about the safe house, then they need to have a good safe house. And the third, talking about what actually happened in the safe house, they have to receive psychological treatment as well as psychiatric treatment. Talking about safe house, this is actually rather situation that Indonesian people, despite the fact that we claim ourselves as a philanthropist society, willing to help people, However, in terms of the providing our money to build upon safe house, actually it is very limited. So talking about the number of safe house here in Indonesia, we can count the safe house in using our two hands, meaning that our animal in terms of providing support for children are actually very much limited.
All right, that's another homework that we
Yeah.
have.
I think
Another homework, right?
sometimes we don't think about all the, I guess, the domino effect. We only think immediate consequences, but then what happens to the victims after that? Like we mentioned, this lasts them for probably the rest of their lives.
Yes.
So definitely a lot of that. One last thing there, Professor. Do you think that the increase of sexual violence cases amidst the pandemic is a sign that the elimination of sexual violence bill must be passed?
I really support for the new bill. The problem is this, that the issue of power relations is not strongly supported by our member of parliament. There are some elements in the parliament saying that, well, don't talk about the power relations, because what actually important is the criminal actions taken by the culprit. And that's actually the problem, because again, the sexual violence, especially against children, is not something that overtly happen,
right,
or can be vividly seen, by the victim. So I think we have to include the issue of power relations as something that that installed within the new law, which is actually passed by the parliament.
Agree. All right, thank you so much, Professor, for your time and for your insight into this matter. We know it's a sensitive issue, but we're glad that we're able to speak with you about it.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care. Stay safe.